Welcome to Revival Cycles. I'm Stefan and this is Doc, and today we are reviewing the Bell Moto-3. Okay, so the Bell Moto-3, you might have seen this helmet once or twice before, even if you were riding motorcycles way back when motorcycles were invented sometime in the late 70s. This is actually the same helmet as what you had back in the day, the good old days when everything was awesome and things were cheap. They've basically taken the molds back out and repackaged it as a brand new helmet that meets modern safety standards, but it still looks the business of the old school, super awesome, cool helmets that you used to have when you were a kid. And so we've got Doc here, who's had the privilege of being our guinea pig to ride around town and actually wear one of these helmets on his motorcycle. And I'm really interested to know, what's your favorite thing about this helmet, Doc?
My favorite thing is the styling. I mean, it looks vintage, but it's a modern DOT-approved helmet.
Yeah, the DOT rating and the ECE rating are probably the coolest thing about this helmet, because it is exactly like the NOS or the old helmets that you could find on eBay or wherever else, but this one will actually protect your head if the awful thing happens and you end up with your head on the ground. So the peak is kind of one of the unique features of this helmet, and when you're riding around, how did you feel about having the peak on the helmet?
On the highway, going highway speeds, the peak wasn't my favorite thing. I ended up pulling it off because it was pulling my head a little bit. Mm-hmm. That's on kind of an upright, kind of standard position bike.
Yeah, like the Supermotos or kind of the standard whatever bikes.
For the dirt, since your head's pushed forward a little bit more, it wasn't a problem at all. I would absolutely run it then. In town on a sport bike, where you're a little more aggressive, also was not a problem.
Earlier, you had actually mentioned that this visor and this peak is a little bit different because it's got a few extra snaps.
Yeah, that's one thing I really liked. I've had helmets on before with like the 3 snaps and turned my head away and had the visor rip off. 5 snaps instantly, I was sold on.
Just those extra 2 makes a bit of a difference.
Yeah, it feels a lot more secure.
The other thing that everybody's always interested on helmets is how they fit, what's the sizing. So you normally wear a large, and how did you feel like the sizing was for the Bell Moto-3?
I felt like at first it was a little tight for a large, and after about 2 weeks it broke in really nicely. It fit true to size. I mean, it fit snug like it should.
That's about what most helmets do, so I think we'll say that these are pretty par for the course. And in helmets, a lot of people also talk about kind of the difference in the head shape. There's just generically, people talk about the round head versus the long oval. I know that I'm a long oval because it's just kind of obvious. What head shape are you?
I'm a round head.
Okay, and how did this one fit?
It felt really well. There's not like a tight spot somewhere or an area where it's biting harder than it should or making me feel uncomfortable.
Gotcha. That might be one of the things I like the most about the Bell helmet range is I've got an oval head and you've got a round head, and I can wear a Bell, you can wear a Bell, and they all feel great as far as I'm concerned. I ride every day in an MX-9 Adventure, and that fits my head perfect. And the Moto-3 is probably really similar, although honestly I haven't worn this helmet yet. I'm not going to lie to you. So to know that it fits true to size, it fits a round head, and I'm going to speculate that it fits an oval head just as well. The peak is super cool, looks great, and with 5 snaps it's on securely, but it's also really easy to remove. You'll notice, for anybody who's used to wearing a full face helmet, this doesn't have anything in here. So what were you doing for eye protection?
I run the 100% Strata goggles. They actually fit really well inside the large helmet, but Bell does run different shell sizes.
Sweet. That may seem like a bit of an issue if you're trying to fit your goggles, but nobody likes the bobblehead effect, and those different shell sizes are how you eliminate the bobblehead effect. If you have a small head and you're using the same shell as somebody with an extra large head, it's just not going to work out. So inexpensive helmets will usually use just one shell size for the entire range, and that means they just put more foam inside of it, which means that you end up with this giant bobblehead. With the Bell Moto 3, they run 3 different shell sizes, so I'm guessing that's going to be extra small, small, medium, large, and then extra large, double extra large. And those 3 different shell sizes make such a huge difference for keeping the dreaded bobblehead effect down. What other awesome things can we talk about with this helmet? We did touch briefly on the safety standards. These are kind of modern reincarnations of the original, and that means they've been built with modern materials and they have been tested to the modern DOT and ECE standards. So these are actually capable of protecting your head in the unfortunate event of an involuntary dismount. So we've been talking a lot about kind of the outside of this thing and the safety ratings and its function as a helmet, but what does it feel like to actually wear it? We talked about sizing, but what's the interior like? This feels kind of like a jersey or a terry cloth. How's it feel on your head?
It's very comfortable. After it breaks in, the helmet breathes well enough that it's not worth mentioning that it's hot or cold.
Yeah, it's not particularly hot, and it's not particularly well ventilated, and you wouldn't expect to because there's no vents really anywhere on the shell, only this one gigantic one in the front, which is the important part anyway. So even in Texas, this isn't too hot, but it's not really going to win any awards for being like a super cool helmet other than being really cool looking. We've kind of mentioned we've been talking about these kind of standard helmets, but there are 2 sort of special versions that exist. There's the Chemical Candy and then also the independent design. And you actually got the Chemical Candy for your girlfriend. And how did she like that one?
She likes it kind of the same thing as I said earlier, where it started off a little snug and broke in. Her extra small is maybe a little smaller than you would normally think it would be. So I would suggest if you usually wear an extra small, you might want to bump it up to a small.
Yeah, that's really good information. So I'm going to go in the engineering land and kind of guess that they've kind of extended the bell curve, no pun intended, a little bit further out in the size range. So maybe the extra large fits a little bit bigger and maybe the extra small fits a little bit smaller. So just be aware of that. It seems like the middle of the range, the large medium, is pretty much true to size, but maybe getting a little bit more reach on the small and the double XLs. Also worth mentioning that with the Chemical Candy and the independent, you get a little bit different liner. Instead of this kind of cloth jersey sort of material, that was it was something different. What was on those?
It's like a micro suede. Yeah, the Chemical Candy, it's going to stand out a little bit different on the outside, and then the inside, it's a different texture. So
with kind of the idea of like these different color schemes on the outside, we may as well just run through what exists. Obviously, there's a red and a white. There's an orange.
It's a yellow.
Okay, yellow.
The independent gray with the iron cross.
Okay.
Chemical Candy, it's multicolor.
A little bit of metal flake and some stripes.
Yep.
Which is pretty rad. The yellow one.
Yep.
Yep, the yellow, and then the super bright orange.
Yeah.
And yes, and everybody has to have a black helmet. You can either be a stormtrooper or you can, be all blacked out and go stealth mode. But the colors, when you do get into the colors, are really bright. And I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but the red, very vibrant red. Yellow, yeah, you can barely look at it. Same thing with the orange. The colors are fantastic. Really, we're not just bragging up this helmet because we think it's cool. It is a really well-made helmet that has all the same style of the vintage helmet because it is the same as the vintage helmet, with the added bonus of actually being safe because it's been made sometime in this decade. We are in Texas. Sometimes it gets hot. You've been ripping around, and this thing isn't too much worse than a normal helmet. But when you do sweat, it kind of goes in the liner, and on some helmets that can get kind of nasty and be a problem. But this one's removable. Can you show us how they actually come apart?
Yeah, it's actually super easy. Just little tabs that hold it in, so you don't feel like you're gonna break anything.
Cool. Yeah, that's really slick. And then basically, if you need to wash this after it starts to collect a bit of the brain juice, I think recommendation is hand wash in a bucket with some woolite and wring it out and then let that line dry. I wouldn't suggest throwing this in the wash machine or the dryer, but there's this whole pile of tags here that'll probably tell you all kinds of things that I didn't mention. So super easy to pull the liners, really helpful that they can be removed, and I would guess that we could probably even pull these cheek pads out. Yeah, some nice little snaps that holds those in place. And yeah, hand wash only. And something in here is 35 millimeters. Sweet. So what's this look like inside of here? Not too much left in there. Just a little bit of some soft stuff and then all the actual protective expanded foam. That is what gets crushed if you actually run into the ground with your head in this thing. So really helpful if you're going to wear this helmet and sweat. You want to get these out and wash them. You don't want to have a stinky helmet. No one likes that. Well, I think that's pretty much everything I can come up with to say about a Bell Moto 3 since I haven't actually worn one. But after talking with Doc, I actually really want one. Like I said, I ride in an MX-9 Adventure and I really like that. This would be another really awesome alternative. So when I'm in the market for another helmet, this is high on my list. What did you think about it? Like, end verdict, yay or nay?
I give it a pass. I like it a lot. I'm going to continue wearing it.
Yeah?
That's my main squeeze.
Good deal. And I know you've got a lot of helmets. They're stacked up all over in the shop. So if this is going to be your go-to, that's pretty high praise. So there you have it. At Revival Cycles, we sell the exact same products that we use. That means that we know how they work, we know if they don't work, and we're not afraid to tell you. So this isn't just a big fluff piece where we tell you how awesome this new thing is. This is something that we actually believe in, and it's well built by a reputable brand, and it's going to serve you for the long haul and will be your partner on all your adventures. So go to revivalcycles.com. You can check out the full range of colors and options for the Bell Moto 3. You can also see all the other great helmets like the Bell Bullet and all the offerings from Hedon. So with that, we're going to let you to it. Check it out, revivalcycles.com, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're always here to make great videos just so you guys know what's up. Thanks.